why January isn't slow and why waiting until February is actually a mistake. Look, let's talk about January marketing, because I hear this every year. January is slow, we'll just wait till February. And on the surface, that does feel logical. The holidays are over, people are tired, and budgets end up being tight. But here's the reality that most businesses don't realize until it's a little too late. January is not slow, it's just quiet. And it's quiet as an advantage, actually. January is where you can audit, reset, and build systems before the rest of the market wakes up and starts making a bunch of noise. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to use January 2026 to generate leads, increase engagement, and set up momentum that's going to carry you for the entire year instead of having to play catch up later in March. You should start off with looking backward. Before I plan a single piece of January content, I always look backward because guessing feels productive, but it's usually a really expensive mistake. January is not about reinventing everything. It's about understanding what already worked and why it worked that way. This is where most people end up skipping ahead. They want a new strategy, new content ideas, a new offer. But if something converted last year, it's there for a reason. And if something flopped, then there's a lesson to be learned there. January is when I slow down just enough to see the patterns instead of chasing new ideas constantly. Once that clarity in what works is there, the next steps become obvious, and it's about setting up a direction. Okay, this is how we can meet January goals without it feeling chaotic. Here's a problem with the January market for most businesses. They're busy, but they're not being intentional with what they're doing. They send out content, they post stories, they send their emails. But there's no end destination, there's no true goal in mind about moving forward. January content should know what it's trying to move. Not everything has to sell, but everything should be supporting something bigger. When your goals become clear, your content decisions become easier and it becomes more of a framework. When your goals are vague, January is going to feel extremely scattered. Once your direction is set, the next thing is to fix what people are actually walking into. So, January is actually the best time to refresh your offers and sales funnels. January is when people are open, but they're cautious. They want a level of momentum, but they don't want to be overwhelmed by it. They want to have clarity, but they don't want it to be complex. This is why January is a funnel reset month. Small changes in how an offer is explained can make massive differences in January. If someone has to think way too hard, they're going to wait. If it's a clear process, then they'll move forward with it. So January shouldn't be about adding more steps, but should be about removing friction so people will actually want to sell. Because once the path is clear, content is going to start doing a lot better and you're going to start making a lot more money. So January content actually sets the expectations for the entire year. Your January content isn't just content, it's positioning. This is when people decide what type of year they're going to have with your brand. So, are you being clear about what you're selling? Are you being consistent with putting out content? And are you actually being helpful in solving a problem for your clients? January content should orient people to yourself and to your business. It should say, this is exactly what I help with. This is how I think through our process. And this is what you can expect when working with us here. When your content does this well, engagement stops feeling so random. Okay, let's break down exactly why January psychology is going to work in your favor. January buyers are in a very specific headspace. They're not being impulsive, but they're being intentional. They're looking for solutions that will help them feel confident about the year coming up. When your messaging aligns with that mindset, January conversions feel a lot easier and not as forced. You're not convincing them. You're confirming what they already know. And that's why January is such a powerful testing month. So, why is January the smartest time to reset and to test new product? January feels slower, which makes it perfect. Lower noise means clearer feedback on what works and what doesn't work. When you look at what gets saved, what gets repeats, what gets replies, what sparks questions, If you look at the data that you collect, these become the foundation for your next quarter. And by the time February hits, you're already going to know what it works best for your business. But none of this matters really if you're just talking at people, which takes us into the next most important bit of January marketing. Engagement matters more in January than any other month. January is about conversations. This is when people are going to respond. They're going to ask questions. They're going to admit what they've been struggling with because they want to make a difference in the new year. When you lean into this engagement instead of broadcasting, trust in your business is going to accelerate. And trust is what turns January attention into real momentum and real sales the rest of the year. So, how do you approach January without wasting money? January is not the month to be aggressive with ad spend. It's the month to warm up your audience, test and observe what actually works best. Ads in January should support what you're already doing and not try to replace it. The goal is to build familiarity, not to build pressure. When done right, February ends up becoming easier, cheaper, and a lot more predictable for your ads. So, what is January really for when it comes to marketing? Here's the real truth about it. January isn't about things being slow. It's about being foundational. It's where clarity becomes sharpened, systems are built, and momentum quietly starts mounting up. Most businesses are waiting. The ones that use January to get ahead, calmly, intentionally, strategically, they're the ones that actually grow. And if you want this fully built out for you, the messaging, the content, the funnels, the engagement system, that's what we do for our clients. Because January doesn't decide your year by accident. It decides it by how intentionally you start out. So use these tips, implement them, ask questions below, let us know where you're at with your business, and we will help you build out a strategy and a plan that's really going to help your business grow through 2026 and keep that momentum flowing. That way you're not stressed out and you can focus on running your business instead of trying to market the entire time. But until the next video, we'll see you soon.